The following is a transcript of a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. 28th April 2021, Perishment. Me. I find myself sitting watching the pyramid, and I am invaded by a sensation that I feel every so often, although for years I thought I normalized. I am. Which one? Me. The fact that today they are ruins. As much as even so, when entering the vibration that is felt inside, it is unmatched, I cannot help but think that sometimes, in the chamber, I feel like a small creature singing inside an empty skull whose life disappeared centuries ago. A certain melancholy envelops me to see that they have died, and yet their bones continue to resonate. Every day I enter the pyramid, one part of me expands, but another feels like it dies a little more every day. And when people come to visit the pyramids, I often tell them, what you see is the skeleton of what once was. Every day I walk through Giza, the feeling is of walking through a cemetery. And the question arises, why did something that vibrated so loudly and perfectly have to end up like this? I am. Because everything that is created is destroyed. Everything that lives dies. Everything that goes up comes down. Me. Why does the same creator who generates beauty and expansion distort to the point of destruction? I am. Destruction has two ways of being seen, by continuity or by opposition. Me. What would it be like for continuity? I am. In the universe, everything is eternal. Nothing ends. It only changes its forms. If there is one thing certain in the cosmos, it is the law of constancy. Time and space are the two most important and fundamental constants of existence. Through them, vibration waves move, which according to their speed and contraction will become particles. They will modify their states along these constants, going from being solitary particles to forming larger particles, then atoms, molecules, compounds, elements, cells, tissues, organisms, bodies, which will connect, reproducing, generating links, emotions, and feelings, creating cultures, societies, art, philosophies. But the journey continues. The only thing these tiny particles have done is share waves, energy. You could imagine this sharing as a sport with balls, football, volleyball, basketball. The ball is the energy, and the players are the particles that move in waves through a space. They share this energy, making a team, exchanging the ball between two groups called positive and negative. In some cases, the team is organized in such a way that it needs the other team to be able to follow the game, as in volleyball. And in other cases, they are organized in such a way that they must avoid the other team, as in football. This creates different forms of exchange. When energy was passed from particle to particle in this game of life, it was also going through the constant of time, which seeks to fulfill cycles of energy generation, which we could call times of a game and points or goals. The latter are the charge generated during a cycle of time, which shows the ability of a particle team to manage energy. Those who have managed to manage more energy by accumulating it in the opposing team, since the goals or points that are added are based on how much energy you have shared with the opposite, are worthy of evolution, and will move to the next level to play with other teams with the same level of energy management. This causes evolution and adaptability for the winning team and the reorganization of the defeated team. That is, the players who lost need to reorganize, forming a new strategy, a new team, perhaps exchanging some of their players for new ones, forming a new structure. The equipment you had met before disappeared conceptually. However, it took a new form. In reality, it did not die. It did not disappear into reality, but it rearranged its components to become something else. Thus, the constant is an eternal game of exchange and rearrangement of waves and particles exchanging energy. Me. I liked the example. I understand it better now. So in a way, this explains the example of opposition. I am. Well, it's a beginning to understand it. The opposition is a bit more violent and takes teams to a different level. Me. In what sense? I am. In the case of continuity, there is a willingness on the part of both to carry out this exchange to evolve. In the case of the opposition, one of the two forces refuses or is unaware of this change. Me, for example, I am a war or an asteroid that destroys life on a planet. Me, that is the destruction we usually refer to, as absurd to a mind that considers the universe a loving and creative being. Something that always strikes me is that consideration we have of believing that the cosmos, that this God, is a kind, generous, loving, protective, and creative being, but on the other hand, it allows wars, hunger, theft, destruction, and all kinds of horrible things. I am amazed in religions at the idea of asking God that everything goes well, and when things go wrong, instead of considering why believe in someone or something that allows bad things to happen, I still do everything right according to their rules. They ask God for protection or for guidance to get out of that problem. I mean, the key to atheism is to realize that things cannot be managed by a benevolent or malevolent mind, for things happen simply because they happen. Many I met who didn't believe in anything. It's basically because of that religious disappointment of seeing that God allows famine or wars in the world, even though thousands pray, which implies that there is really no one there. And if this happens, many excuse themselves in the easy answer, God has a plan for me, or the Lord works in mysterious ways. Why? I am. Well, it's a lot of things, but I understand where this is going. Let us remember, first of all, that religions were not designed as a path to liberation, but as a means of security. That is, they relegate us to a paternalistic idea of heaven in which God is placed in the position of a king, owner, master and lord of all, just judge, lovingly strict father. The idea of loving God even if bad things happen is the same one we were taught to love our parents even if they hit us, because they know what is good for us. To teach a people to respect their parents and ancestors is to value the origin of oneself, but religion has forgotten to respect oneself, with which centuries have passed in which people repeat the same mistakes for simply honoring the father and mother, even if they break with the integrity of the being that we are. Thus arises the idea of fearing God. Me. That seems strange to me. God loves you, but you have to fear God. I am. It is the systematic vision of a de facto government, in which they made the people think that the king loved them, but they had to respect him because if he was not loved, they could have problems. In this way, they avoided social revolutions. To justify the question of why does God allow evil, they had to create the idea of an opponent who is evil incarnate. Thus, they create the enemy of God, the devil, and the images that justify why unexplained ugly things happen to us. Therefore, even if bad things happen, God will always be trusted, the King of Heaven. Me. So how do you explain yourself, from atheism or from the law of opposites? I am. Distortion born of an incessant diversification. Yesterday we talked about how the universe divides, generating the diverse. Thus arise the two constants of time and space that will allow the expansion and existence of the cosmic being. Cosmos, remember, means order in Greek. The image you can see of this diverse order is given in the radial geometric projections, which order the fabric of the constants in the form of intertwining spirals, like the seeds of a sunflower or the tail of a peacock. The order is established here because it follows the logic of mathematics, such as the golden sequence: 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, etc. But the same structure begins in turn to repeat this pattern infinitely, not only on a third-dimensional plane, but also in all other dimensions. So that you can understand this, imagine the Romanesque cabbage and continue to expand it not only outward, but inward as well. There will come a time when the perfect structure collapses against itself, causing some of its extensions to collide with previous ones, breaking that perfection. Me. Sure, I can see. It is as if in the constant expansion, the same body were divided so many times that there would come a time when the outermost parts began to return to the center, crossing the previous structures, damaging the body, like a tree that is crossed by its own roots or branches. I am. That collapse goes from being cosmic to chaotic. Me. The cosmos itself creates chaos through its constant fractalization. I am. Which turns one's own against themselves. War, conflict, arising at the mathematical and geometric level in quantum entanglement. Me. Wow. This explains the destruction. It is not a plan for bad things to happen, but it is distortions collapsing with each other. How is this corrected? I am. Before you know this, you must understand what moved you. The pyramid being a skeleton, or your body getting old. We call this process perishment. That is, the act or circumstance of perishing. The word comes from the Latin perire, arising from per, end or purpose of something, and the verb ire from Indo-European ei, to go, to advance. The word perishment then refers to going to the end of something. When fractalization expands to such an extent that it no longer finds space to extend and begins to retreat on the structure itself, superimposing itself on itself, it finds its end in its own structure, the limits of the universe, because of its diversity. Therefore, we could say that the game is eternal, but it divides itself into cycles to manage energy, finding in each stage of time an end, and in each space an end. The teams we were talking about can have several games throughout their lives, but they cannot sustain the same level all the time, inevitably, by law of rhythm and vibration. They will follow the curvatures of the vibration waves, which will go up and down like the waves of the sea, making them at times unable to sustain the same rhythm of equipment, which will lead them to have to leave the ball to new players. Me. To die. I am. Death does not exist as such, for it is only a mental concept of finality. On a real level, the only thing that has happened is that the team that made up your trillions of particles have begun to reorganize, passing the energy to other particles. On an atomic level, you have never existed. Just as when you look at the sky and see the stars, you cannot understand the galaxy, its shape, or where you are in it. The galaxy does not exist for your eyes, any more than you exist for the eyes of an atom. And yet, your movement through the galaxy changes the order of it, and after millions and millions of years, stars and planets explode or emerge, not from nothing, nor going to nothing, but the apparent death of a star is nothing more than the seed for life on other worlds. It was a dying star that sowed asteroids and comets into space, which one day, in their diversification, collapsed with the Earth, giving it the right components for the emergence of life. You are the product of distortion and chaos, the child of destruction and death. Me. Wow. I am. That's why you see history disintegrate. Not because things went wrong, but because its expansion has reached its limit, which makes it turn on itself, collapsing. Me. Like the fall of empires. I am. Atlantis, Egypt, Persia, China, Mongolia, Greece, Rome, Spain, England, France, Germany, each with its own potential, expanded to its limit of time and space to collapse in on itself. This system is useful for the universe. Me. In what sense? I am. It ensures that continuity is not static. For if so, nothing would exist, and even today there would remain under the command of the same people, language, philosophy. The expansion of life without the collapse of its own system is counterproductive to experimentation, to expression, to transcendence. It is counterproductive to integration, creativity, and evolution. Without collapse and destruction, there is no adaptability, no ingenuity, intelligence, development. Death is what gives meaning to life. Me. Having said that, then, I can ask the question again. How do you correct this? I am. You cannot correct the system by pretending to eliminate its collapse. You can only channel the energy so that the collapse is not painful or traumatic. And this is achieved by going through ignorance, that is, the denial that things are not connected. You must recognize that everything in the universe is one organism in transformation, and that to deny the transformation of it is to cling to one form. The only way to understand the purpose of things is to give them a purpose. Every day gets its night. Every journey reaches a destination. Every inspiration dies in the exhalation. Every beginning comes to an end. Not recognizing the cycles that constitute the constant, clinging to a node that will only lead you to trauma at the moment of collapse. It is essential to move forward, and to recognize that everything you do will perish. Me. Learning to perish. See in withering the magic of life and the attainment of energy. I am. To perish is to recognize the limits that we ourselves have created, recognizing that there lies the key to the transcendence of our forms in new ones. What would you be willing to stop from yourself, to destroy yourself, to allow yourself to move forward? What is the limit to which you have reached of yourself and to which you still cling? Me. I don't know. I can't realize it right now. It's a strong question, I think. I am. Think about it. Me. I am. Me. Egypt. I am. Egypt? Me. Yes, the pyramid. It has died for me. It's a skeleton. And I'm willing to let it go. I mean, what I lived in it. I am. What do you let die? Me. Shu. Who I was 12,000 years ago. Every day I go, I feel less her. I feel freer. That's why I see a cemetery. That's why it bothers me more and more when I'm asked about details of that time. Because I feel that I've died, and I feel like every day it's time to let go. I am. When you let it go, you can translate it externally and you will release it. For Shu has found her limit in you. And by looking into her eyes with awareness, instead of the weight of history breaking the integrity of who you are today, you deign to observe the perishing. And what notion does this give you? Me. That Matias must also die, let go. That by finding Shu through time and space, I too found my limit. The past no longer calls me as before. Now the future does. I am. And for the future to happen, what must happen? Me. Recognize that I must die. If I do not die, I do not allow myself to perish. The information of the future will not flow, conditioned by the past. That's why I see my grandson in the pyramid every day. As I wrote in my story, The Great Inheritance, if I did not die, he would not be able to come here, and he would never have told me what I must know to accomplish this mission. I am. Now, Matias, you understand. You will no longer go to the pyramid to see the dead and remember their fascinating lives, but to talk to the future and leave them your great inheritance. Me. I understand now. Thank you. I am. Thank you. We are one. Me. My paths, past, present, and future, are yours and mine. I am your other self. I am. And where one dies, the other is born. Me. And I am the designer of the roads. I am. Perish, and only then can you be born.